better. I can see everybody now. And
Get on your soapbox.
they can probably hear me. Yeah, it'd be great if it was on there though. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's really good. Oh, yes. Ah, that's perfect. Can you hear me? Mother? Fantastic. Thanks, Katie.
Do you want to go?
While my mic's getting settled,
I
I'd like to welcome every single one of you, okay? For those of you who don't know, my name's Julie Rossman, and some of you know me as, can you hear me at the back? Yeah. Great. Some of you know me as the author of the Whitstable Pearl books and the TV series. But many of you here actually know me as an environmental campaigner who's maintained, I don't know how I've done it, but I've managed to maintain a 4.5-year payment boycott. Thank you. Of Southern Water in protest at their criminal record of sewage pollution. Now, I thank you all sincerely for being here today and giving up your time on such a lovely day. But you know what? The sun always shines on the righteous. And you're not only giving up your time to me today, you're doing that to every single one of us who has decided that enough is enough. We have to call out the water industry in this country for what it has become. And what it has become is a legalised scam.
Yes, dirty business.
Now, I won't be alone in doing this today, because as you've seen, I've got a lot of good support here and a lot of good help from great people. People like my co-campaigners, Katie Colley. Katie, where are you? Katie is my co-founder of Boycott Water Bills, and also Olivia Kavanagh, today Boycott Water Bills. Both Katie and Olivia have come all the way from Hastings in Sussex today. We've also got 2 Green Party speakers here today. We've got the Margate councillor, Rob Yates. And importantly, Rob is also here all day. Rob is also the Green Party candidate in the upcoming KCC by-election on April the 9th in neighbouring Cliftonville. And I think it's really important for me to say, actually, that when people say to me, as they have done in the last few days, this should not be party political, everything is party political. Everything is political, especially sewage pollution and what we've had to put up with Southern Water and every other water company in the UK. So the Green Party are actually the only main party in this country that has as its core policy the renationalisation of the water industry.
Public water! Public water!
Now we also have here very popular guy in the Green Party, Councillor Andy Harvey.
Could you get the placard out of my bag?
He is actually the West Bay councillor, but he's also the co-leader of the Green Group at Canterbury City Council. Thank you for coming, Andy. And I'd also like you to give an especially warm welcome to John Bosco Mogbo and he has come today here from We Own It. For anyone who doesn't know about We Own It, this was an organisation that was started up in 2013 by the campaigner Kat Hobbs. And she did that, quote, to be a voice for the people who use public services. And why do we need that? As it says on the We Own It website, because after 40 years, privatisation of our public services has failed. We use it. We pay for it, so we own it. It is now time for public ownership, and never was a truer word spoken than that about our water industry. So to begin, we are here today in Margate because of that building right across the road, the Thanet Magistrates and County Court. And that's where I was due to face legal action today at 2 p.m, brought against me by South East Water as the billing agent for Southern Water for my non-payment. But some of you may not know that the hearing has been postponed and will actually take place next Thursday, the 26th, in Canterbury at 10 a.m. So although there won't be a protest next week, come along if you want. We'll have a photo call. Sit in on the case if you want. You're very welcome. But the reason why we continued with this protest today is because that court case too might yet be postponed because of the lack of judicial time. We wanted this protest to continue today because we didn't want it to be a movable feast like the court cases. So why did I begin my payment boycott? I'll tell you. In July 2021, the issue of sewage pollution seemed to spring into national attention because of all the media coverage that was given to the record criminal fine of £90 million that was given to Southern Water after an investigation by the EA uncovered what was said to be, quote, the worst environmental crime in the 25-year history of the Environment Agency.
Shame on you.
That case focused on 6,971 illegal sewage spills by Southern Water, amounting to 61,704 hours of releases, a duration of 7 years. A few months after that shocking trial, which took place in Canterbury actually, at which Southern Water itself said, I give up, Gov. They pleaded guilty to 51 guilty pleas. And I was asked to speak at a protest staged by SOS Whitstable. And if I didn't find Southern Water's serial offences here shocking enough, while I was doing some research, I discovered that only 2 years before that record criminal fine, the company had been ordered to pay penalties and a fine totalling 126 million only 2 years before that, after an Ofwat investigation. And what really caught my attention was the fact that the CEO of Ofwat at that time, Rachel Fletcher, said after the investigation, particularly about Southern Water having manipulated its own wastewater sampling, she stated, what we found in the case is shocking. In all, it shows the company was being run with scant regard for its responsibilities to society and the environment. But it was not just the poor operational performance, but the coordinated efforts to hide and deceive customers of that fact that are so troubling. Hide and deceive. Why would any of us here today or anywhere believe the empty promises of Southern Water? They like to offer us always from time to time that they are turning over new leaves. if it was you or it was I who was found guilty of these crimes and the shameless, absolute shameless deception that accompanies them, we'd all be in jail, wouldn't we? Yes. And so should the CEO of Southern Water. Yes. You know, my payment boycott began here in March, down on the beach, a few months after that court case, and a campaigner turned to me and she asked, why are we still paying our water bills? And I didn't have any answer. I still don't. So I asked the same question of SOS Whitstable, and they weren't keen on promoting a boycott, but there were 3 other Whitstable residents who were, and they happened to be my friend Emma Gibson, who is the former campaigns director of Greenpeace, and she's here today. Emma, where are you? Right there. Emma decided she would join in, her partner Steve Wheeler, and a guy called Ashley Clark. He was then a Conservative councillor, but he'd also been a police officer, and he resented paying a criminal company. Emma and I looked into the legal repercussions of non-payment, which, you know, included potentially pressure from debt recovery companies, bailiffs, poor credit ratings caused by CCJs. And in the face of all that, at that time, we decided that we would just take individual action rather than promote it for others and just see how long we could last. Well, straight away, many of you who are here from Whitstable will remember that we gained vocal support from Bob Geldof. Yay! Bob happens to live close to Faversham near Whitstable, and he had no qualms whatsoever about recommending a boycott campaign to others. It was Bob who read about our action in the local press, and he stood up at a local meeting and declared this: don't pay your water bills to Southern Water, they can F off. God bless the people of Whitstable, I'm straight there to join them. In fact, I'll join them immediately. Well, that got boycott action straight into the national press, The Guardian and The Times, and a boycott campaign was then underway, all courtesy of Bob Geldof's outburst. In 2023, I was contacted by Katie Colley in Hastings, who, along with Olivia and others in Sussex, were all also withholding wastewater payments to Southern Water, and we joined forces. We started up our group Boycott Water Bills with its website boycottwaterbills.com, and the aim was to give advice and information really to anyone wanting to take their own independent action by withholding the wastewater element of their bills. In short, through Katie's technological skill in setting up, managing and monitoring that site, we now know that there is payment boycott action in all 11 wastewater areas in this country. And we also believe that there are literally thousands of people in the UK who are withholding payment to their water companies, but I'll let Katie explain more about that. So importantly, what I must say to you is that as a water customer, when I first began withholding payment, I informed Southern Water of my action in the belief that I was probably protected by the Consumer Rights Bill of 2015, which any consumer who has the right to withhold payment or to negotiate a lower sum to pay if a company has shown poor or inadequate service. Lots of you must know about this. Everyone thinks they can do this with the water companies, but what I learned was that the water companies are actually evading responsibility for their poor service by claiming protection for themselves via a selective use of the Water Industry Act 1991. In effect, and this is really important, they state that they are statutorily obliged to provide services for which we customers are statutorily obliged to pay, no matter how inadequate those services may be, and only the regulatory authorities like Ofwat have any power over them. Now, I say to you today, it cannot be right that in a modern civic society, consumers like us are forced to pay for services which are not provided at all in some circumstances, like water provision, and that seriously pollute our seas and waterways and damage our environment, while they deny us at the same time a means of challenging this effectively through the legal system. So, in court next week, or whenever my case finally is, as part of my defence, I intend to claim that the remedies that are available to us customers under the existing statutory scheme are either through Ofwat or even through the consumer complaints process are insufficient, and in principle they contravene Article 5 of the Human Rights Act. Now, thank you. Katie can tell you from our own experience at Boycott Water Bills that the complaints process regarding the water industry is not fit for purpose. And sadly, Ofwat, as that regulatory authority, we do not have the rights to make any representations to Ofwat or to make any kind of appeal against its conclusions. And the national press have reported several times about there being a merry-go-round, a revolving door that exists between Ofwat and the water companies themselves. So what's happening is that senior former Ofwat staff have moved on to roles at water companies, and they include Catherine Ross, Thames Water, Andrew Beaver, Northumbrian Water, and Ian McGuffock at South West Water. So Ofwat cannot be seen as an adequate forum for dealing with the statutory obligations of the water companies. Now, significantly, a percentage of those who sit on the board of CCW and CCW is the main body charged with dealing with complaints from water consumers like us, are current or past water company executives themselves. And examples of that are Bev Keogh. Now, she is a former water company executive who was with Thames Water, Welsh Water, South East Water, and Dr. Mike Kyle, who's the chief executive of the Consumer Council for Water. He previously worked at Severn Trent Water from 2011. So meanwhile, while all this goes on, Southern Water just continues to pollute our environment with sewage spills at a level that is well above any kind of spill that might be reasonably expected of a responsible sewerage undertaker. And look what happened in November 2025. Who remembers the spillage of toxic beads onto beaches as far away as Sussex, which actually ended up on our coastline here? And wasn't it privatisation, which was meant to bring better service via competition? Well, we as water companies are unable to exercise any kind of consumer choice by going to another company because Southern Water is a monopoly wastewater service provider in Kent, as is South East Water, when during that major incident in January, it left tens of thousands of customers without water. That prompted Kent MPs to demand action in Parliament, and Helen Grant, the MP for Maidstone, actually stated the following: South East Water is failing at every level. How can anyone reasonably be expected to pay their water bills, let alone accept yet more price rises, when the company repeatedly fails to meet the most basic standards of service? And she called for the resignation of South East Water's chief executive, David Hinton. Well, guess what? He's still in place. And I'd like to see the back of David Hinton, but I don't think that's enough. I want to see the back of every single water company CEO in this country, for whom, by the way, the average pay is £1.7 million a year. Shame. And meanwhile, our bills go up 40% in real terms since privatisation and are set to increase far more. So every day, water companies discharge raw sewage into our rivers and seas more than 1,000 times on average. That's over 9 million hours since 2016, and only 14% of English rivers are considered to have ecological status. So, to close, regulation has failed to bring about the necessary investment in infrastructure that should have been financed by the water companies themselves. We, the customers, should not be paying twice for that investment. No way. The companies say we should, and this miserable government that we have shamefully agrees. I tell you something now, I will not pay for a service I fail to receive. And there are thousands just like me, just like Katie, just like Olivia, like many of you here today have come from other areas, who feel exactly the same. We can pay, but we won't pay. This country is the only country in the whole world who has a fully privatised water industry, and it is a national and an international disgrace. So next week, to close finally, next week in court in Canterbury at 10 a.m, I will be defending our position. If I lose, I will be impacted financially by court costs, but they're manageable, and the claim made against me for the payment that I've withheld. But it will, importantly, it will make no difference whatsoever to my commitment and that of the thousands of fellow Boycott Water Bills campaigners in all of those 11 wastewater areas of this country, who will continue, as will I, to hold the UK water industry to account while we expose it in court cases like this as the legalised scam we definitely know it is. Bring it on. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. It means so much. And now I want to introduce Katie Colley for you. She's, as I say, my co-founder of Boycott Water Bills and a fantastic campaigner. Katie, come here.
Hello. Kirsty wrote, I've requested from Southern Water that dates of last year they released raw sewage into my area. Southern Water. Jackie, I did it before, but now I'm going to do it again. Thames Water. Ian, I've cancelled my direct debit because they just increased it by £9 a month, and I've sent the template letter adding examples of local pollution in my area. Southern Water. Louise, stop polluting our waters. Southern Water. Maxine, I'm appalled by the way my water company disregards the environment and wish to make them aware this is unacceptable. United Utilities. Jim and Vicky, we're doing this and we're sending an email to Southwest Water today. Southwest Water. Duncan, criminals who should be held accountable. Southeast Water. Sheila, I've been withholding my wastewater element to my bill and it's now the hand of a debt collection agency. They can whistle for it. Southern Water. Christine, I've written a letter of complaint. I'm withholding the sewage portion of my bill. Katrina, I'm disgusted by the continual pollution of our local seas and rivers by Southern Water. Kirsty, Louise, Maxine, Ian, Jim, Duncan, Vicky, Sheila, Christine and Katrina. Who are these people? They're just ordinary people from up and down the country like you and me who've had enough and who have written to us at the Boycott Water Bills in the last week. That's just the last week. They're not heroes, but they are people like you and me who've had enough of spiralling bills while water companies pour increasing amounts of sewage into our seas and waterways with impunity. And for many of us, it's not a first act, but it's a final resort, because we see no other way to make a difference. As Julie said, there's no accountability in the water system. Regulation has failed to stop rampant and runaway greed, resulting in today what more looks like a criminal enterprise than any industry.
Yes.
And it does. The state of our water puts us all to shame. But as consumers, there's very little we can do. We have tried going through the proper channels. Many of us have started with letters to our water company, escalated to the Consumer Council of Water, from there to the Water Redress Scheme, after that Environment Agency, and finally the last port of call, Ofwat. But at every stage we were told no. You cannot hold your water company accountable for their failures. But as consumers, we're unhappy with a service, we should be able to go elsewhere. We can't, because it's a natural monopoly. We wrote letters. We protested. We signed petitions. The government changed, but with water, nothing changed. So we're stuck. And that's why so many of us decided that despite the potential risks and the difficulties, we're going to use the power we have in our pockets. We're going to withhold payment for the wastewater part of our bill. So for me, it started after I went swimming in the sea in the summer of 2022 near my home in Hastings, and I got E. coli. I wouldn't wish E. coli on my worst enemy. It's awful. And if I'm honest, the number of times I've swum in the sea since then, I could count on my hand. So it changed something for me. And that's when I recalled that my friend Olivia had been telling me about withholding wastewater part of her bill, and I thought that's a great idea, and that's what I'm going to do. We started together Hastings Boycott Southern Water, we found the Kent boycotters, and hence Boycott Water Bills was born. And as Julie said, since we started, tens of thousands of people have visited our website, getting information of how to boycott, many of them starting at the ground level with cancelling their direct debits. And that's the first risk-free legal way to join the boycott. Nobody is obliged to pay by direct debit, only on receipt of a bill twice a year. Direct debit is how the water companies use us as cash cows. They hold our money on account. Now, since the screening of Dirty Business on Channel 4, we've had a flood of new boycotters. Thousands more are looking at our sites every week, and many have reached a point, like all the people I listed earlier, where they say, that's it, I'm going to do it. It's not easy. It is scary. You do get lots of nasty notices, lots of threats. Some people are willing to go all the way to court. And we have had boycotters up and down the country facing this prospect. And we commend anyone who takes this courageous step, as the law is weaponized to punish the individual who dares to challenge this rotten, stinking system. So I commend Julie, and I commend all those who are standing up and saying, not a penny more. People ask us a lot, how many are there? The truth is, we don't know, because so many people are doing it anyway, and they're not telling us. We do have hundreds of actual boycotters on record, as Julie says, from every single one of the 11 wastewater companies in England and Wales. But there are people doing this out there we don't know about. This is a genuine grassroots movement.
Yes, yes.
And to those people I say, be loud. Speak out and tell others what you're doing, because courage is courageous. And the more noise we make, the more our power grows, and collectively we do have enormous power. We need accountability. We need to stop shoveling money into the pockets of big business executives and their shareholders. This system is bankrupt, largely because of their greed, taking money out of their companies and burdening them with unsustainable debt. These companies are now environmentally insolvent. They would need £260 billion to put right. So we say renationalisation without compensation. It's time to take water back into public hands, kick out the vampire kangaroos like Macquarie out of our utilities and say, our water is not your business. Get out! Boycott water bills!
Boycott water bills!
Boycott water bills!
Boycott water bills!
When water is under attack, what do I do? What do I do? Thank you so much, and thank you for coming.
That is the most amazing campaigner. That's Katie Colley. God, am I pleased she's on my side. Now, next up, Andy Harvey. Councillor Andy Harvey of the Green Party. Where are you? There you are, Andy. Big hand for Andy.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Katie, for that impassioned speech as well. That's fantastic. And it's great to see so many of you here today. I'm Andy Harvey. I'm councillor for West Bay in Herne Bay, co-leader of the Green Group at Canterbury City Council. We've now got 5 city councillors. 4 of us are from what we call the sewage belt, because that was very important in our election. I represent Herne Bay. We've got 1 in Swalcliffe, 2 in Gorrel, and now we've got Peter Campbell, who's here today, representing Wincheap as well. So that was our first city representation. But it's been very important to us. I'm very pleased to come here and support Julie and the rest of your campaigners as well, because it's just such an important thing. It's been questioned why this is being made a political issue. As Julie says, it's something that affects every single one of us. Basic human right to have clean water to your houses and properly functioning infrastructure to take the sewage away, and we don't have that, and it's just shocking, and we need to be doing something about it. And I'm elected to represent the people of West Bay, and politicians are elected to represent us and do something about it. That's why it's a political issue, because individually we can't do anything. Pardon? Good for him anyway. Ever since I've known Julie, she's been campaigning on something or another, normally for the underdog and those people who need that support. And for Julie to continue doing this for 4.5 years is just fantastic. At that time, 4.5 years ago, middle of 2021, as probably most of you are aware, Southern Water and the water companies are allowed to pump sewage into the sea under exceptional circumstances, a heavy rainfall basically. During that summer of July 21, it was a very hot summer, it was very dry, and we'd just started citizen testing of the water in Whitstable, and I thought, let's test the water in Herne Bay. Even though there'd been no rainfall, there should be no CSOs, combined sewage outfalls. And I was just shocked at the E. coli results we were getting from the water all along the seafront in Herne Bay. In a dry summer, there hadn't been rain for weeks and weeks. And that was what really inspired me to try and do something about Southern Water. And that was when I stood for the City Council in election and got elected then in 2023. It's important politically because last night we were at a meeting at the Guildhall, Canterbury City Council, voting on the local plan, which is Labour's plan is to build 23,000 more houses in the Canterbury district. We already know we can't supply clean water for those houses that are already there, and we can't take away the sewage from those houses that are already there. Why the heck we want to build that amount more houses without putting the infrastructure in the first place is beyond belief. We had a lot of support. We had support from the Conservatives, not normally our closest friends, and a couple of the Lib Dem people. So a lot of people are seeing common sense. Unfortunately, I don't want to be political about it, but I've got to, because the Labour Party are whipped under instructions from above. They all voted for this plan without any thought amongst them of individual thought of what damage this would do. It is a shame, but we're on a more important issue of pumping shit into the sea, which we've got to stop, and we've got to do it somehow or another. So thank you very much, Judy, for standing up, putting your head above the parapet.
Thanks so much, Andy. That's brilliant. And Olivia, it'd be great to hear from you now as a Sussex campaigner who's come all that way today. Thank you so much. Olivia Kavanagh.
Hi, I'm Olivia from Hastings, just down the coast. Like Julie, I started my boycott in 2021, July 2021, when it came into the news that Southern Water had been fined £90 million for dumping raw sewage. And I just thought, hang on a minute, what am I actually paying for? They're not treating my wastewater. There's something wrong here. There's also something wrong if they prefer and can pay that fine of that size rather than invest that money into the infrastructure. Obviously that fine was cheaper than paying into the infrastructure.
It's our money.
Exactly, yeah. I kept my boycott going of the wastewater part of my bill for about 3 years, and was threatened with court action and I couldn't manage it. So now, just to keep the debt collectors off my back, I pay a very small amount monthly. And Southern Water's fine with that, as long as you're paying something, they'll leave you alone. So that is an option if you don't want to boycott fully. So in Hastings, as well as obviously being on the coast, a lovely beach, raw sewage being dumped, we've had 2 occasions of really severe flooding in the town centre because Southern Water doesn't maintain the drainage. So businesses and private homes wrecked. Just as they were getting themselves over that, it happened again. As well as that, we've had a couple of outages, parts of the town, pipes burst. We've had no water incoming to certain areas of the town. We're in 2026, we're supposedly a developed country and we're still living like that. In preparation for today, I checked the Surfers Against Sewage app, which I look at when I'm going to go, Surfers Against Sewage here, when I'm going to go swimming in the summer. And usually we've had a few nice days with no rain, and as the councillor mentioned back in July when he was testing it, I looked, and from New Romney to Deal is a stretch of 21 miles, and on there there's 7 places marked where they measure the water quality. Every single one today and yesterday has a red cross by it, which means that they recommend not bathing or they're dumping raw sewage. In Deal and St Margaret's Bay, for 24 hours, this app shows they've been dumping raw sewage. There's sun, there's no rain. It's that old excuse Southern Water use that, oh, it's overflow, we can't cope when it rains really heavily. It's a load of rubbish. As has already been mentioned, 2025-26, 47% increase in our Southern Water bills. Did that improve the service? No. Did it increase their profit? Yes. All they care about. As Julie mentioned, end of 2025, when our bills went up, the biobead spill from Eastbourne all the way to Dungeness, all along the coast. Did Southern Water come out and say, we're sorry this has happened, we're going to clear it up? No. We saw it on the beaches, walking around the biobeads. I hadn't heard of biobeads before, to be honest. And it was reported, you know, how they're damaging the environment, especially visible at Camber Sands because it's sandy. Did Southern Water come and clear it up? No. Volunteers, voluntary organisations came out, and then I think Southern Water eventually sent some volunteers to help in their suits clear it up. But as usual, left to the community and people that care about the environment, not Southern Water. It's blatantly clear, Southern Water, all the water companies don't give a damn about the environment, the wildlife, the plant system. We've got, David Attenborough has been saying for years, this is a crisis, our planet's dying, and yet we're being forced to pay companies so that we're complicit in damaging the environment and killing it. They don't give a damn about the humans that use the water for recreational purposes, the rivers, the seas. Obviously we have a choice, we can check an app, the animals can't, the plants can't, they're just stuff basically. Yeah, the way forward. I'm not an expert, but yeah, we need to stop the profit. You know, they shouldn't be for profit. These companies. We need to renationalise. But if we renationalise, it has to be overhauled. Katie mentioned dirty business. Probably most of us have seen the drama. The corruption of the Environment Agency being in cahoots with the water companies can't happen. That's got to stop. It's got to be rehauled, start from scratch, be properly regulated. Also interesting, dirty business, the guy who worked in the sewers, most of the sewage system, they're not relying on the Victorian system. So this old myth, oh, it's because the Victorian system doesn't work. That's not true either. You know, we're just being fed lies all the time. But also, if we renationalise, we need to now listen to people like Surfers Against Sewage, listen to people who've got expertise, have the public opinion, be able to feed in and make it a public service as well. Finally, yeah, if you don't want to boycott, you can stop your direct debit. I've got a friend who did that recently, who's not an activist, not into boycotting, but she said, okay, I'll stop my direct debits. She came and she said to me, I was massively in credit. That money was sat in that bank account, and I've now got that to pay my water bill, probably for a year. So it's disgusting. We can encourage people to at least stop their direct debits if you don't want to boycott. And that will damage these companies, hopefully. And finally, good luck to Julie, who's stuck out her boycott, and hope there's a positive result. But as she says, we're keeping it in the public eye, and that's really important. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. And you know, it's a really important point about cancelling your direct debits. Yeah, each year you can ask for a paper bill and just pay by cheque. Late. They hate it. They've actually written off some of the debts of our boycotters if they agree to go back on direct debit. And those people haven't. They want their hand in your bank accounts. Take it out. So our next speaker is, as I say, from We Own It. He's come at very short notice, and I'm so pleased he's here. He's John Bosco Nwobo. Thank you, John Bosco.
Can I get this out? Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Julie. And obviously we all wish you good luck once the case comes to court. And I hope you don't mind if I take a look at my notes while I'm speaking. As Julie said earlier on, and from We Own It campaigns against privatization of public services across a range of public services. When I started at We Own It, we were running a campaign in Greater Manchester to get the buses in Greater Manchester taken into public control. Guess what? We won. It's now in public control. Obviously, we're currently running a campaign to get the railway fully nationalized, and we're campaigning on water as well. And it's always incredibly heartening for me to see people from across communities come out in force to say enough is enough. We no longer want sewage in our rivers and seas. We want our water to be run for people and not for profit. And when I was preparing my remarks for today, I was asking myself, what is it exactly that Southern Water wants Julie to pay for? And I made a list of the things that it might be they're trying to get Julie to pay for. The first thing is that Southern Water dumped sewage for about 304,000 hours in our rivers and seas in 2024. Is that what they're asking Julie to pay for? So that they could continue to dump sewage in our rivers and seas? Well, they paid out £2.3 billion in dividends to their shareholders since the water company was nationalized. Is that what they're asking Julie to pay for? Actually, you know what? That's not even a rhetorical question. Some evidence came out last year that suggests every single pence that has gone into the water sector since privatization has come from your bills. So you are literally paying for their dividends, you are paying for their debt servicing, you are paying for what little investment they've put into the water infrastructure, which is pretty much negligible. You are paying for it, and that's what they're asking people like Julie to pay for. The industry, obviously, as a whole, has taken out around 85 billion in dividends over that period. That's all we're all paying for. And Southern Water specifically has loaded up a company that when it was sold to them in 1989, when it was sold to them, had £0 and 0 pence in debt. Guess how much debt it has today? It has £5.7 billion in debt. It's essentially, I don't even know how to describe this, because I would have said, well, they took out the debt and paid themselves dividends, but for whatever reason, they took out the debt, paid themselves almost 2.5 billion in dividends, and yet did not invest. Where did the 2 point whatever is left go to from all of this debt they took? Right? It must be that there are ways that they're taking out money from these companies that isn't dividends and isn't properly reported. There is probably some criminality involved there. And instead of people like Julie finding themselves in court, defending themselves, Southern Water should find itself in court, defending itself.
Put them in jail.
Absolutely, we should get them in jail. Now, I wanted to update you a little bit about what's happening right now. Something that, if they have their way, people like Julia are, I don't think boycotting them is going to do the job completely. Thames Water, as you may know, has been negotiating with Ofwat to be allowed to dump sewage in our rivers and seas for the next 15 years without impediment. Obviously, their argument is, well, if you prevent us from dumping sewage, we are going to go bankrupt because we're going to have to invest in the infrastructure, and that's going to take a lot of money, and that's going to make us bankrupt. And we are sitting there and thinking, why are you threatening us with a good time? Whereas Ofwat obviously is saying, no, we can't let them go bankrupt. And we've learned actually yesterday that the deal that they have now arrived at, it's not yet been signed off, will allow them to pay a pittance in upfront punishment fee, if you like. So they're allowed to dump sewage in our rivers and seas illegally for the next 5 years. Now, obviously that's about Thames Water. But imagine the race, I wanted to say the race to the bottom, but it's pretty much a race to the sewer that would ensue as soon as that deal is signed off. Not just for Thames Water, but for Southern Water, for Southeast Water, for all of these water companies across the country. That deal must not be allowed to go through. And you know what? You now have the upper hand. After watching the show Dirty Business, the drama Dirty Business, we've had people who have never spoken up, celebrities who have never spoken up about water, now speaking up about it. You now have an opportunity to stand up and say to them, hell no. Say to Emma Reynolds, hell no, this deal cannot go through, because if it does, Southern Water will ask for a deal of their own. Every water company in this country will ask for a deal of their own. If they cannot survive without being allowed to dump sewage in our rivers and seas, you know what? Let them go bankrupt. Let's take them into public ownership for nothing. Now, finally, We Own It, as you know, campaigns against privatization, and if you'd like to get involved in the work that We Own It does, obviously really important to stay involved in the work that Julie and the Boycott Water Bills campaign is doing. If you'd like to get involved in the work We Own It does, please go on our website, weownit.org.uk, sign up, join our email list. We send you 1 or 2 emails a week, and we give you specific action as to how you can achieve the change you want to see. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's really, really exciting. Cheers.
Brilliant. Absolutely amazing. It's really important not just to be speaking truth to power, collectively, meeting like this and sharing ideas, but to have a specific way through. And I really do urge everybody to go on the We Own It site. We can be writing to our MPs about specific things, as John Bosco has just illustrated. So please do that. And I think, Katie, what we'll do is put up the link from John Bosco for action to be taken. So go to boycottwaterbills.com. We'll put it up there too. And if you forget either of those things, just come to me, you know, I'm on Facebook and all my posts are public. So for our very last speaker today, but not least at all, I'd like to call on Councillor Rob Yates for the final word. Here we go, Rob. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you. Nice and tall up here. So first of all, I'd just like to say I think we should all give a massive thanks to Julie, Katie and We Own It today, because this is an incredible event and this is exactly what the public needs to be doing across the country. And Dirty Business, as we've talked about, has really shown the dirty side of not only Southern Water and companies like that, but the regulators. So yeah, once again, thank you so much, Julie, for what you're doing, and thank you for everyone involved here today. So I'm Rob Yates, Councillor Rob Yates, and I'm standing to be the Cliftonville Kent County Councillor on the 9th of April for the Green Party. So I was thinking about what's the important issues for residents here, and what can I say that I've been involved with that will resonate with residents. So I've got a copy of the leaflet here, which is being used for Cliftonville. Point number 2, campaigning for clean seas. So this isn't just talk. So in 2021, around the coast of Thanet, our beaches were closed for 2 weeks. We're a tourist destination. I believe it was June 2021, all across Ramsgate, Broadstairs, Margate, beaches, no one could go in the sea. Why? Because of an electrical outage at Southern Water's Fourness Point, just up the road, where Southern Water didn't invest in an uninterruptible power supply, which is a pretty standard piece of electrical equipment any major piece of infrastructure should have. So following that, councillors, we got invited to the water treatment park, we got invited to the pumping station, and what did they do? They showed us around aging equipment that was rusting, covered in dust, seagull shit everywhere, pigeons flying around. It looked appalling, but what did they do? They put some new cardboard boxes on the floor saying, here's our uninterruptible power supply, this won't happen again. They think we're like children. They think we'll just believe that whilst we see all this rusting equipment, that we'll believe in them because there's some cardboard boxes with electrical equipment on the floor. So what happened next was, I spoke to the Environment Agency, Contact, I won't mention their name, but I invited them to Walpole Tidal Pool, one of the largest seawater swimming pools in the country, and we met with like community swimmers, and we asked them, do you have enough money to like investigate all this? And they said no, we haven't got the investment or the people to investigate every piece of thing. And following those kind of discussions, I submitted an FOI similar to the Dirty Business on Channel 4, and I just asked Southern Water a simple but technical question, and I love technical questions. How many times have you breached, how many times in heavy rain have you failed to meet 809 litres per second pumping speed, which is to ensure that the sewage gets treated very quickly because there's lots of water in the system, to ensure that they don't have to pump in the sea. So how many times have you reached? And they were honest, and they said, yeah, 2019 didn't meet it. About 5 or 6 times. 2020 didn't meet it. About 10 times. 2021 haven't met it this many times. And it was absolutely like, it was so astounding that they would admit this. So I shared this information with other people in East Kent, and every single FOI after that was, you're not entitled to this information. It was absolutely like, it was just like the TV show. They just shut their mouths and were like, oh shit, we've just admitted to breaching our own permit. So that specific piece of evidence is now with the Environment Agency, and in April we're expecting this year this will go to court. Not quite. A full 5 years after our beaches were closed for 2 weeks. So when I meet residents on the doorsteps, I say, look, I'm involved in a court case against Southern Water, and every single resident is smiling and go, good, someone needs to be. And it makes me really proud to be part of the Green Party, which is calling for public ownership of our water industry. Lastly, I've just got a few little phrases to say, because I think these are really important. I'll try and remember the one off the top of my head. But I'm not actually going to do that. I'm going to check my notes. So this is a really important one, and just common sense. So privatisation without competition is exploitation. We haven't got competition of our water industries. We're forced to pay the bills, as Julie's here saying today. Like, we don't have a choice, and yet they're dumping in our rivers and seas. And just think about it, like, it's common sense the regulation is not working when they're dumping water in our rivers, in our seas. Next one, I've got water is a public good and not a profit machine. Why, as you said, Julie, why is England and Wales the only country in the world where our entire water system is privatised? So I hope we can all agree, like, from my side, and I think from the Green Party, we need to reverse Thatcherism and the kind of horrid rot that's set in our country. So, as a Green Party politician in the run-up to an election, I'll just finish on this point. I hope we can all agree. If the Labour Party won't nationalise water, the Greens will. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you. Well, that's amazing. I'm so pleased, I'm so grateful to have had such brilliant speakers here today supporting this action, and to have every single one of you here too to witness this, and to know that should you want to join us by choosing not to pay for the wastewater element of your bills, you can do so. You can pay it any time later. But I tell you what, if you start sending those emails or the letters or making the phone calls to South East Water as the billing agent for Southern Water that you are boycotting, and you tell them why, I can bet you that it does cause a ripple. As John Bosco says, that's not going to solve the whole problem. We need a political solution to this, and it doesn't lie in a privatised industry anymore. But I'm old enough to remember, do you remember Railtrack? Who was in charge of rail safety? And that was privatised. And then we had the Potters Bar rail crash. We had a number of public safety issues which forced the government to take back rail safety into the government's hands. And they then started up Network Rail. And it was in 2012 where some of you from Whitstable will remember we had a campaign to stop Network Rail's unnecessary tree clearances that they were doing across the whole country. And we saved that embankment of trees, which they tried to fell in the bird breeding season. And Network Rail were behaving like the water companies, like a law unto themselves, because they were protected by the government. But when I looked into the status of Network Rail at that time, I saw it was like a kind of chimera. It was a not-for-profit private company, but that was funded by the government, but that tinkered and played around with our own money. Network Rail, it's like this. Network Rail really was brought back into a nationalised organisation, but it's been clouded. The whole thing has been clouded because successive governments are scared of renationalising industries because it costs money. But we all know that the money is there. If the money can be raised if there's proper taxation in this country, where the billionaires don't escape and head off to tax exile colonies all over the world. If they pay their fair share, we will be a good way towards having an equitable situation in this country where we are not paying those exorbitant CEOs to do nothing but take our money out of the country, because 70% of the water companies are owned by foreign investment companies and hedge fund hunters. It cannot carry on. So I will be, hopefully, defending my case against South East Water and Southern Water, but they are such cowards, that it isn't even Southern Water that's bringing this case against me, whereas I am actually bringing the case against them. They are hiding behind South East Water as their billing agent. So South East Water takes me to court, And I don't really have a right to even have any kind of representative from Southern Water in that court case. But don't worry, because I have been, I'm telling you this now, it was a secret until now, but I have been getting help from a judge. It is a judge who will remain nameless for obvious reasons, but a judge who is sympathetic to this cause. Because I'm telling you, as John Bosco said, and every speaker here, I don't think there's anyone outside of the water companies in this country who isn't sympathetic to doing something about what is actually a national outrage, and as I said at the beginning, a legalised scam. So if my court case doesn't change again, and it takes place next Thursday at 10 a.m. in Canterbury County Court, join me. You're more than welcome to do so. We will have a photo call outside. We won't have a protest again, but you're more than welcome to come for the photo call and to sit in on the case. And I tell you, I am prepared to lose, because in many ways the law is stacked against us. But in that case, we don't give up. We demand that the law is changed, and that the law actually reflects the will of the people and not protecting criminal companies who are still demanding our money. I really sincerely thank you, each one of you, for coming along today. Keep up the fight.
Thank you. Can you all come together? We'd love to do a picture with as many people as possible. Julie right in front, John Bosco, the councillors, Olivia, everybody who's spoken today, and everyone with a t-shirt, get yourself in front. We'd love to do some pictures. Thank you.
Behind.
Let's have that. The one